Every day, millions of search queries are entered in Spanish, German, Arabic, and Japanese. Tapping into these local markets multiplies your customer base directly, without forcing you to spend an extra dime on paid ads. This chart's baseline is your English-only addressable market. Adding Spanish, German, and French search markets scales your reach exponentially. But there's a catch. If you use basic automated translation, that potential reach collapses to zero. Search engines won't know who the page is for. Without explicit technical signals instructing the search crawlers, those newly translated pages remain entirely invisible to foreign users. Worse, the algorithm can penalize them as duplicate content, actively hurting the domain you have already built. A human visitor immediately recognizes when they are reading a page in French. A search engine bot, however, relies exclusively on hidden code tags to parse the language, the region, and the intended audience. Building a site that successfully captures international traffic requires aligning three strategy layers. First, content adaptation, an architectural foundation, and technical routing. Effective multilingual SEO requires you to map your content to global users through technical instructions that search engines actually understand. The content approach determines whether your message resonates or disappears. The fastest way to build foreign language pages is to feed your English text into a machine translator, but it is also the most direct path to failure. Raw automated translation preserves the literal meaning of your words, but it ignores local search intent. People in different regions use specific idioms and culturally nuanced phrasing when they type a query into a search bar. This comparison table highlights the problem. If you translate cheap flights directly for a Spanish audience, you get vuelos baratos. But target Mexico with that exact same phrase, and you will miss the traffic entirely, because local Mexican users search for ofertas de vuelos. To capture that regional traffic, you have to localize. True localization requires adjusting your message to fit exact local expectations, modifying the currency, restructuring dates, and targeting the specific keywords that region actually uses. The trade-off is clear. Localization aligns with user behavior and drives high rankings, but it requires significantly more upfront time and capital than a batch machine translation. To save time, some site owners take a shortcut by mixing multiple languages on a single page, translating the body text, for example, but leaving the navigation menus and footers in English. This mixed language approach breaks the site. It confuses search engine bots trying to determine the primary language, disrupts the user experience with jarring transitions, and ultimately destroys your conversion rates. Search engines rank relevance. To be competitive, your pages must be culturally adapted to a specific region's search habits, rather than mathematically translated from a database. Your architectural foundation represents the most critical, irreversible choice you will make when expanding internationally. This matrix compares subdirectories, subdomains, and ccTLDs across domain authority, cost, and local trust. First, subdirectories are folders on your existing site. They consolidate backlink power, giving translated pages an immediate ranking advantage while keeping management costs low. The trade-off is subdirectories require strict internal linking discipline. A misplaced link risks tangling the architecture. Next are subdomains. They provide clean content separation and isolate regions on flexible hosting.
But subdomains carry a major SEO penalty. Google treats them as separate entities. Your domain authority is diluted, forcing new variants to start from scratch. Finally, ccTLDs. As the matrix shows, establishing a fully local domain sends the ultimate trust signal to regional algorithms. The barrier here is the cost. These are standalone websites requiring separate SEO campaigns and server infrastructure for every region. For the vast majority of small to medium businesses, subdirectories are the undisputed, most efficient choice. Your chosen URL structure dictates whether your international expansion gets to leverage your site's existing SEO momentum or is forced to start completely from scratch. The final layer of this blueprint is technical routing. You have localized your content and chosen a URL structure. Now you need the core navigational code, the Hreflang tag. This flowchart shows how Hreflang functions. When queried, these invisible tags route the English speaker to the EN node and the French speaker to the FR node. Implementation is strict. Links must be perfectly reciprocal. Break that loop and the chain fails. Because of this complexity, many developers try to skip the tags entirely, relying on JavaScript or IP-based redirects to automatically detect a user's location and force a language swap. Search engine bots operate from specific geographic locations.
They cannot save cookies, and they do not reliably trigger IP redirects. If redirects are your only routing method, your localized pages will simply never get crawled or indexed. Managing hundreds of reciprocal tags manually is prone to error. Instead, WordPress sites typically deploy CMS plugins, like Voxfor Multilanguage, to automatically generate these complex Hreflang tags and translate metadata. The trade-off with automated plugins is that they rely on third-party API limits, and they still require constant human oversight to ensure the output doesn't degrade into gibberish that search engines flag as spam. Without flawless Hreflang routing working beneath the surface, even the most perfectly localized content will fail to reach its intended audience in the search results. So, how do you put this all together? There is no universal setup. The right strategy depends entirely on your available capital and human resources. Depending on your scale, this decision tree has two paths: the SMB route or the enterprise tier. For SMBs, your blueprint relies on subdirectories on your current domain, using a hybrid translation model, automated AI paired with manual intervention. You can safely leverage high-quality AI for the bulk of your body text, but you must manually research and localize the critical ranking factors, your title tags, meta descriptions, and header tags, to capture specific regional search intent. If you are an enterprise or mid-market brand targeting highly distinct regional markets, your blueprint is built on full multi-regional differentiation, utilizing ccTLDs. You should only deploy country-specific domains if you have the dedicated marketing budget and personnel to build independent backlink profiles for every single country you enter. Global expansion rewards no half measures. Translating only your paragraphs, leaving headers in English, ignoring reciprocal HTML tags, creates deep technical conflicts, damaging your overall site health. You must either commit fully to strict URL architecture, full-page language consistency, and correct technical routing, or keep your site single language until you have the resources to execute it